recording.
Yeah, you told me. Yep. All right, good evening, everybody. My name is Adem Bria. I'm the Chair of the Housing Committee. I'm gonna call tonight's meeting to order. It's April 1st, 2025 at 6:40 PM. I think it's ground rules. All right, I'm just gonna go over some ground rules. No one may speak until granted the floor. CB11 members, if you have a question about board business or wish to make a motion, please raise your hand and wait to be recognized. To raise your hand through Zoom, click the participants icon and you will find the raise hand function there. Members should not engage in a back and forth discussion. The chair will recognize the next person to speak. Please keep your questions and comments brief and on topic to the discussion. Members of the public, if you have a question or comment about the subjects on the agenda, please raise your hand and wait to be recognized. Okay, Angel, if you could take the roll.
Adem Bria,
Present.
David Giordano, John Green.
Here.
Christina Johnson. She's online. Will Lopez.
Here.
Jessica Morris.
Here.
Beverly Pavon.
Present.
Cynthia Ramos. Dawn Sanders. Loretta So.
Yeah.
Candy Vivas Vasquez. Jason Wu.
Here.
We have one.
All right, thank you. With that, we'll move to the adoption of this month's agenda. Unless I see any objections, we will adopt the agenda for this month. Seeing no objections, then this month's agenda has been adopted. I've been a bad guy, so we will skip the meeting minutes and I promise to have them all up to date next month, even though I promised that this month, but I will do it this time. All right, so then announcements or informational updates. I don't have any, but does anyone here have any?
This weekend I attended the Historic Districts Council Annual Preservation Conference, which was focused on challenges and opportunities for the work. There were some big conversations, some folks from HPD, some folks from who were serving in a federal capacity, talking about historic preservation tax credits, some conversation about balancing the challenges of funding streams related to preservation and the sort of a mystery behind how to preserve buildings where there are stabilized or affordable units inside them, including a kind of cost of renovation per unit question mark. That wasn't solved, but I think hopefully there are some conversations there. Each panel was moderated by a journalist, so hopefully there's a little bit of noise there. And there were a couple of tools that I'm sure George James is aware of. His name came up with regard to the return of affordable units in a specific district, but it's something that I will look into, and then if there's anything worth bringing back to the table, I'll follow up.
Thank you. And I lied, and I'll get into it more later because I want to let our presenters present, but I emailed everybody, so there is a walkthrough of East River houses on Thursday at 1 PM. I'm in the process of setting up walkthroughs of Wilson houses, and then Loretta, hopefully we get Jackie Robinson. Me and Angel did have a meeting with HPD regarding the TIL ANCP program. It was specific to the properties at I don't know that address totally off my head, 98th Street and then 2 East 127th Street. We do have an update on another TIL ANCP conversion that'll go later tonight. So I think then I'll just, after that, it'll be a natural segue into me kind of elaborating on what's been going on with what me and Angel have been doing. And so with that said, then we are going to move to presentations and discussions. And so first up is an update on Hope Community Managed Properties in Community District 11. And for that, we have Walter Roberts and his team. So the floor is yours, present, and then we'll see if anyone has questions. Thank you for being here.
First, thank you for inviting us. those that don't know me, I'm Walter Robertson, the Executive Director of Hope Community. I've got folks helping me out here. You'll be actually doing the presentation. You don't be here from me. Craig Hardy's our Director of Maintenance Operations, and Nelson, who is our Director of Resident Services. With passing out packages with some information stuff that we won't go over everything in there, but I thought it's having some stuff that you can look at your leisure. I guess for those that don't know, we're celebrating our 57th year here in East Harlem. I may look it, but I've not been there the entire time. I've only been in 15 years of that. We started out as tenant organizers, helping with under occupied or vacant buildings, beginning to be moved into those buildings. Our founder, George Calvert, I guess, acquired some property privately for all of the alphabet programs that HUD and state government and city government created. And we acquired some of those buildings early on. And I guess, in his having conversations out loud with government, they challenged him and said, well, if you think you can do better, go ahead. So we started acquiring some buildings through some of these programs and vacant lots and fast forward to today where we now have 73 buildings, roughly 1,200, so 1,250 and 51 apartments. We didn't get all of that at one time. They are in most cases clusters, but they're not necessarily contiguous. Our earliest buildings tend to be around 140 where our office is. There are old tenement buildings. Amazingly 6-story walk-ups, because those are rare, but we have a bunch of those. The earliest buildings that I recall looking at are in our housing company called 239 East 115th Street, HDFC. It was developed and created. We didn't get them all at one time, all 12 buildings, but over time. But they were through programs called SIP and SOS, Special Initiative Program. And I forgot what the acronym for SOS means, but formerly homeless. And they were able to get apartments through this program. And then thereafter, it was more the neighbor preservation program. We did a rare one deal, 85 with the state, which was it's a 44-unit project on 109th Street. It was new construction. We do have a section 202. It's known as Carlos Rios. It's 102 units. And we are, I think we're the last rental Mitchell Lama north of 110th Street. Canaan House. There is one on 110th Street that we're coming off of it. But there may be others. I don't recall that being the case. But it's population buildings that, once was pretty prevalent throughout Manhattan, and it's largely gone. We realized that our mortgage was going to come due in 2019. So in 2014, before NYCHA, we raised our hand for the RAD program, and we renovated buildings through the RAD program. And that's been pretty consistent. So we've now, throughout the years, have, well, the years I've been there, at least we renovated all of our buildings with the exception of the 239 portfolio on Harlem Road and Quattrolex, thank you. So let's make it 70–80% of our portfolio. And we are in the process now with HPD to finance the rehabilitation of our 239 portfolio. So it's interesting. I thought I would be able to plant my flag there, but then you realize buildings have life cycles. So the stuff we did 15 years ago now needs new windows, new boilers, new roofs and stuff. But the thought that, we're doing this, but we're also present in mind to make sure that the units, once rehab, are still affordable to the people that live in buildings. And, our tenants may disagree, but they've not seen a rent increase. I mean, if it went up because it was affordable to them. We tend to make sure that they are affordable to folks and that they're paying no more than 30% of their income. I did a quick look a week or so ago, the average income of the families that live in our units is around $16,000. We have some that are as low as 9,000. They need a tremendous amount of help. And as a result of that, you know, we went ahead and looked at ways that we could be able to help them. One of those efforts was the creation of our resident services program, which Camille will talk about later. Unlike some of the other maybe property management companies, we carved out our maintenance department from property management. So that it operates in a totally separate silo under Craig's leadership. The superintendent's handling people and the contractors report to him. And we try to make sure that there's at least somebody addressing all of routine repairs and or emergency repairs. So for that, I'll turn it over to Craig to talk about, you know, I think you asked us to talk about violations and what we do. Good.
Just in general, yeah, thank you.
Well, good evening, everybody. Thanks for having us. Like Walt said, my name is Craig Hardy. I'm the Director of Maintenance for the whole community. I oversee all the porters, supers, handy persons, painters. So violations is the bane of my existence, keeps me up at night. It's a super hard struggle sometimes to deal with it. But I want to touch on what we put in place to try to avoid violations. So a couple of years back, probably 10 now, me and Walter talked about what we could do to make it better to get fast response to our tenants and get real information. Back in the day, it was paper work orders, things like that, call it into Hope, speak to a property manager, and it goes through all these channels. So what we did is we took everything out, we made a 186 number that everybody calls for everything. Emergencies, regular routine, contractors can call when they get to the building. What it does is puts the work order in our Yardi system, is what we use, our database to kick out our work orders. And in the event that there's an emergency, it calls 3 people. 2 of my facilities persons, if they don't pick up, it calls me. So we put that in place and we saw an influx of work being created because it was a person there 24 hours a day, speaks multiple languages. It was in real time. They can get their work order number and, you know, be satisfied with somebody reacting to that. So what we try to tell tenants all the time is use that system versus the 311, which then takes like 48 hours for them to come out if it's not like a life and safety or heal hot water. They come out, check it, then it turns into paperwork and gets sent to us. We try to show them the cycle, how easy it is just to come to us versus calling 311. We also put in place something called Site Comply that we use. So every time a violation hits any of our buildings, we get an alert. So we try to be proactive for that and try to, you know, reach out and do that work. Any complaints that come in, we try to get there before HPD gets there. We also use something called Intech Controls. It was a boiler controls that controls our boilers remotely. Everybody in property management and water, we all could see what's happening in people's apartments. We didn't do every apartment with the sensors. We did a percentage of the building and we tried to gauge what the building should be off of that. So those are some of the things that we put in place. Violations is still tough. You know, we have people, you know, not letting us in. You know, you have, you know, the turnaround time sometimes is not enough time to actually get into the apartment to do the repairs. Even sometimes, you know, people writing up the wrong repairs. This happens all throughout our portfolio. We try to work with HPD as much as possible. We take tons of classes that they give for free. We try to stay on top of that, and it's an ongoing process. And also just working with resident services, which is super helpful for me because when I can't get into an apartment, I'm having problems with a difficult tenant, they step in and try to ease that path for me. So super helpful. Me and Camille work hand in hand all the time. And that's pretty much what we try to put in place to keep the violations lower than, you know, low, and try to speak to the tenants one-on-one versus I'm calling 311. There's always really trying to repair that relationship. You know, back in the day, we missed a repair or didn't have communication, you know, 311 is people's first thought. So we're trying to retrain tenants, to be honest, even when they subsidies and stuff. You don't want to lose subsidies. You don't want to lose any of that. So it's really just about retraining the tenant and having a real healthy relationship with them.
We'll save questions for the end, so if you guys just want to move to the, yeah.
Just add just a little, just so you know, so the 866 number that Craig referred to is not a holding point. We made a conscious decision to outsource that. So that if the tenant really thought, I need to tell you something. That operator, they don't care, they have no skin in the game.
It's a third party.
Yeah.
It's a third
They-
party,
they
so
write
they
everything.
put what they do, they put everything. They're not trying to validate it, they're not trying to, enter their opinion about something, they just put whatever it is. If as Craig said, if it's an emergency, he gets a call. If it's not an emergency, it's uploaded into our system. The dispatcher the next day will then contact the tenant to try to make arrangements to go do the repair. The other thing that I think is important to know is that we'll do the repair and the emergency is over. Now, if we're doing it under the guise that we call 866 number, no big deal. But if you call 311, you've got to then close out that violation. That tenant then needs to then stay home because they started this process to let the inspector come in and remove the violation. When they don't do that, we have to pay $300 to have that inspector come back out and do that. We've done that too. So to his point, it's that cooperation to try to get them to let us in. Our lease does allow us to actually enter the apartment. I'm not doing that, but I think that we need to figure out collectively how to get folks to realize if you're trying to embarrass Hope, if you're trying to embarrass Hope, call 311. If you want to repair, call the 866 number and we'll get in there and get your repair done. But that documentation, which I don't blame the city, they need to know that the work was done and they need to physically eyeball it. But that tenant, after the emergency's over, my repair is done, I'm happy. Okay, I don't need to stay home anymore. And quite frankly, for some of our tenants, staying home costs them money. They're working, if they're out of work that day, they may not get paid. So that's just that. Sorry.
No, okay. Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
So I'm Camilla, I'm the Director of Resident Services. So what's unique about Hope is that we have this resident service department that provides services like soft services to resident, case management services. We also offer financial literacy workshops. We have many partners. So like partner up with Operation Hope, no affiliation, TD Bank. We've partnered up with Harlem Strong. I don't know if some of you are familiar with that. So we're actually a partner with Harlem Strong because one of the, as my colleagues have said, we have residents that have some challenges. And we've realized that many of our residents do have some type of mental health and they're not aware of that. So with Harlem Strong, with our partnership, we've been allowed to do screenings with our residents. So we incorporate that with our daily, the coordinators incorporate that in their daily interactions with residents. So we help residents in several different ways. Tenant advocacy, if someone's interested in home buying, because affordable housing is supposed to be temporary, not permanent. We would like for you to leave affordable housing and go into home ownership. So that's something else we try to drive residents with. We also do tenant advocacy. So like sometimes, again, it might be a certain type of day that a resident may prefer for maintenance to come in. It may be, they might need like a little hand holding if maintenance is coming in to do a repair in the apartment. And that's where we'll play a role in. Also with recertification, seeing all those different types of documents for Section 8, SNAP, those can be challenging. So we also help residents do those recertifications as well. If you look in your folder, you'll see our centers. So we have a tenant interactive center called the Hope Connect Center. It's basically where residents can come, they know where resident services is, they can come there, we're open 5 days a week. Somebody is always in there. And so it's certain little things like we ran across that our residents might need a little extra assistance with. So my stove may not necessarily be broken, right? It could be that I haven't properly cleaned my stove. And therefore, because maybe the pilot's is not coming on, it could be grease filled up. So in the whole Connect Center, we have a stove, we have a refrigerator, sink, just a little area where we can show residents how to clean, how to do certain things in there. So this way they can better keep their appliances. If you are aware about the composting, so we're also doing that as well. We partnered up with Lower East Side Ecology Center. They came out to help us and figure out how we to integrate the composting with our residents. So we also have like a little area there where we talk about composting, recycling. So that's something else that we offer and teach there as well. We also partner with our local community partners that come on site to do presentations that are nutrition based or health related. Recently we had Harvest Home come out and they were able to provide us with produce for a couple of weeks, and we were able to distribute that to our residents. And then one thing about Hope, which is really unique, we have something called community rewards. If our residents earn points for the great things that they do. So if you allow maintenance to come in and do a repair, or if you allow maintenance, so when they come with the exterminator, for the exterminator to do extermination in your apartment, you can earn points for that. You can actually retrieve those points for a gift card. So we kind of have that, it's almost like a little reward for, doing great things, because we want to go ahead and celebrate and give something to our residents who do cooperate, who do come and sign their lease, do their lease renewals and all that good stuff. Come to our workshops. That's something big, like, so if you come to a financial literacy workshop or a computer literacy workshop, you'll get some points, right? And you can retrieve those points and get $5, go get a Dunkin' Donuts coffee. So, I mean, those things are really unique about us, and that's it.
Thank you.
So just to sort of put a pin on some of the stuff, so, again, with the work that maintenance does, and by the way, what percentage of folks are from the community? Like 80%. 80% employed from the community. I think that actually then integrates some of the need to get some of the work done. I can't walk down the street because, emails, like, they bother us, they talk to people, right? So I think that just sort of helps with the whole thing. The partnership with the resident services team throughout the organization, it's not just with maintenance, but with property management, is purposeful and intentional. But what I looked at, I do have a master's in social work, even though my board told me not to do social work. But it was intentional, there needs to be an advocate for the tenants. So the property manager's mission, like, I gotta collect rent, I gotta do repairs, maintenance is gonna do the repairs, but there's a heartbeat. There are people living in the apartments, and we wanted them to be able to go someplace, relatively safe place, to talk to somebody about some of the ongoing issues they may be having that are unrelated to what a property manager would normally do. I've gone in apartments, I look around, I know my maintenance people didn't push the holes in the wall and knock down stuff, and so we gotta figure out what's going on. We did talk, Cornelia mentioned the mental health stuff, but domestic violence, there's a lot of things that are going on behind the door. That then, there's this expectation that the super is going to be able to address these things. He's now doing composting and all this other stuff. He can't go up there and be psychiatrist as well, right? So we're hopeful that the resident services team add value and helps with using some of these issues within the family and then with us. We've seen some success there. I would say our maintenance team, I think they do a fantastic job with the limited service resources that are available to them. And as we're seeing stuff start to creep up in price, it's been more and more challenging for us to meet some of the goals that we once did. I would say post-COVID, we're hurting on the financial side, quite frankly. Not everybody returned to work, not everybody kept paying rent. And so we've been tapping our reserves and everything else. I mentioned the 239 HDFC project. We're in the pipeline to do the renovation of those buildings. We need both city council people to sign off. I only got one sign off. And part of the critical path is for both of them to sign. because we had three, but it's only two in our, for these buildings. So they asked if you can encourage the city council people to speak affirmatively about the project so that these, what was it, 11 buildings, got the number of units, but still stop at 2 to 15. We'll get the renovations. And they desperately need.
That's the bulk of our violation.
I was gonna ask, that was gonna be my question. So the violations are,
No, we have violations, but if you.
but that's where most of them are. That was gonna ask. Okay, that makes sense.
We, in some ways, we didn't do all of the extensive work, knowing that we're gonna come in with a capital campaign to do a complete renovation, so we're doing patchwork.
Yeah.
But what we've seen is that when we have been able to do the capital work, the repairs drop off, right? And people
Makes sense, yeah.
Situations, but if you think about 239, again, it's one of our earliest projects. These buildings haven't been touched in 25 years or more. And I'll admit it, having been an alumni of HPD, the CB SOS program was done under city ownership. We weren't great at. So the rehab is not what it should have been at the beginning. We're gonna have to go in there and realign some of the apartments because some of the rooms are not legal. Make sure that it's adequate heat and hot water, all those kinds of things, but that'll be done through the capital campaign, but it'll address the outstanding, the big chunk of the violations that we do have.
Thank you. Well, you answered one of my questions. I guess my other question was, since you put the 866 number in, have you seen that also reduce the violations that actually go in through HPD, or is that being used a lot by the tenants?
So I don't wanna blame tenants here at all, but you have the ones that just continue to do what they do. And I'm talking about at a rate of like every day, some of these tenants do that, knowing the system, to be honest.
Yeah,
We super encourage the 866 because it's just better, it works better, it's accountability too. You call Hope, you have your work order number, you never showed up, that can hold somebody accountable for that. So you can tell we have 17 buildings with 5 or less, right?
yeah,
And then we have 4 with 0,
yeah, I
right?
saw that,
So I
yeah,
have that,
yes,
but those buildings are tenants that, engaged in where they live. The other ones, the bigger ones, we have a little issues with people hanging out or doing things they're not supposed to, and that's a constant battle for me and Camille that we're trying. We have tons of building meetings with tenants and try to push the whole 866 number and show them how long it takes to get the work repaired if you go to 311 route. Even extermination, that's super high, right? We have some of extermination, but that's like a triangle. The tenant, us, the exterminator. If the tenant is not gonna do their part, which I'm fighting with Camille, and we're trying to come up with plans, because it's a soft touch. We don't wanna say, hey, your apartment's dirty. And then we're never gonna get into that apartment. They're never gonna like us. So we do the soft touch, but sometimes I need her to be a little forceful and push a little bit more. Pet food out, water, leaks under the sinks, those are all rodent things that we need to know right away so we can stop it. Yes, it's things at the basement level, but in the apartment is super important.
And I'll say that HPD has gone to the extent now of writing a violation which specifies that we must clean the apartment.
Seriously, clean the apartment.
And to avoid some of the violations, so our maintenance staff is unionized. He has the gift of being able to convince our people to continue working on some of these issues. But to cure the violations, sometimes we'll go in the day before and clean the apartment so that it passes.
Yeah.
So our maintenance people are like, now I'm cleaning people's apartment, which is not the job they signed up for. And for the tenant, they realize, I don't have to clean my apartment because. So it's a cycle, and we're hopeful with resident services that we can start getting people who actually own some of the responsibility.
well, and I wanna, look, I mean, obviously, we're sitting in the middle, we're trying to figure it out, but I appreciate you telling me that, because that's stuff that I would like to talk to HPD about. I mean, that's, I mean, in my opinion, a little ridiculous, but, last question for me, and I'm gonna let the committee up. Have you found this, like, these tenant rewards programs, like, have you seen a meaningful impact? Have you seen some tenants who may have been difficult that are responding to it? Like, has it been working, or is it more so just working with people who are already kind of easy to deal with to begin with?
So before Camille answers, because that's more her realm, it was, the tenants reward program was to reward good tenants.
Yeah,
Because all we do is talk about bad tenants,
yeah,
right? So all our meetings is generated about
Yeah,
bad tenants and
problems,
this and
yeah.
this. Walter's idea to push it was, you know what, let's let the good tenants know that we see you, we appreciate you, and here's a little something. So it really wasn't for the bad tenants.
gotcha.
It's really to show the other tenants.
That
they-
they're recognized,
Yeah.
gotcha, okay.
Yeah, so to his point, the residents that we do have that participate are the tenants that are doing the great things, paying their rent on time, meeting with property management to do their, lease renewal, their lease annual certifications, allowing maintenance of the unit. But I recently, I did do a little, push to kind of, track folks that were in rental arrears. So I did like give them, say, hey, if you clear up your rental arrears, like it's for this month and next month, you can earn 500 points, which is equivalent to a $10 gift card. So it was just like, listen, you clean up your arrears, get a clean slate, and then we can kind of start those folks, because it's a database. I can actually look to see who those folks are, and then I can have a coordinator actually meet with them and maybe say, hey, why don't you come attend a financial literacy workshop, right? And I'm gonna say, like, these services we offer are very good because it actually gives, not only, it gives us the insight of how folks are thinking. We had a financial literacy workshop, I'm just gonna share it is, and in January, and one resident that they had, you know, a X amount, a large amount of credit cards. And it was just like, wow, okay, this is the mind frame, this is how we're thinking. And then you compare that to maybe looking at their ledger, right? Or compare that to, you know, are they allowing us in their unit for inspections, or, you know, just certain little things that you start comparing. So it's really like insightful. I have found that's rewarding, and it is like slowly I'm trying to get folks to join in and learn that, look, you do this, you get this. So it's a process.
Thank you. All right, anybody have any questions here? No?
I know.
All right, Beverly.
Thank you for the presentation. I gave some great, information that is very, great that y'all working with that. My question is, you made a statement that, the maintenance have limited sources. What's your
Resources?
resources? What's the resources that you have?
So I guess the not so quiet secret is property management doesn't make any money. And with affordable housing, it's underwritten to make as little money as possible. So that we're providing, you know, the rents at a level that folks can afford. I can't raise the rents.
Right.
So when money's not coming in, we've got to cut back on stuff. So some of the things that we were more able to do 10 years ago, we're not able to do today. And again, with cost of things going up, I mean, we're blowing through supply houses, they don't want to talk to us anymore. He wants garbage bags now. But if you go by our buildings and see the amount of garbage that's out there, it's like, it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal, right? So there's something about, and that was one of the frustrations, I'll debate this, it was one of the frustrations I had about, some of our residents, like the UPS truck and the FedEx truck can pull up on a daily basis.
Yes.
Okay, pay your rent,
Right.
right? But then, but that connection is not always appreciated. In the most recent past, because we fell behind on some of the Con Ed bills, Con Edison was like, notice is up, cut it off. And people are running around and, oh, hope is like, where do you think we're getting the money? So there's a choice, like, all right, we're gonna make sure that the lights are on, the gas is running, and all that kind of stuff. But we're not gonna be able to keep supporting at the same level some of the things that we used to be able to do. So there'll be a delay. You're gonna need hot water. We did have to do some layoffs. I wasn't proud of that. We went through the pandemic. I didn't have to lay anybody off. 5 years later, though, you know, things are more expensive. I can't keep the same level of salaries. So there's an impact, and we try to, best as we can, make sure that people understand the economics of what it costs to run these buildings. But if you're gonna, you know, if the front doors not being locked, okay. Right, does have maintenance people around it breaking the doors? No, somebody is doing that on a regular. I don't, what's it cost to replace the fix lock?
Well, if you're placing the whole secure lock, it's $1,200.
We've done some buildings multiple times. So.
And we called the police, we made reports of these too, so if I have the footage, I'm gonna give it to the police, but it's a constant thing. Also, too, one of the biggest struggles, sorry to cut you off, Walter, was the trash going to 8 o'clock. To be pulled out, that is a killer for me,
Yeah,
that is a killer. And I'm gonna be honest, I'll drive around at night, early in the morning, send him pictures, it's not being picked up. It's not being picked up, and then I get tickets for obstruction of the sidewalk.
mhm, and they.
So this is killing me. And then the time it takes to fight it. It takes a lot of time to do this. I had to switch everybody's time. I had to pay premiums for having people work later. It's just, it's killing us.
Are you guys catching tickets too for that?
Mhm.
No,
Yes,
Yes.
yes. And I gotta, so I can fight it, I gotta get pictures, I gotta.
yeah, but it's a process to fight it
It's a
then. Now you gotta pay
process.
somebody to spend time to fight,
Granted, it's better than I can send the foreman way before the hearing.
but still,
But
I
still,
know
if
what
I
you're talking
fail, I gotta go to the hearing and still present myself.
I've been down there. I know exactly what you're talking about.
So all that erodes our ability to deliver what we could have done 10 years.
You're,
ago.
yeah,
It's just because the income doesn't grow in a sufficient enough way for us to do those things. So we're making some choices. They're not the choices we need to find.
You say that both, may I?
yeah, go ahead.
That, you try to make your tenants aware of the economics of running the building. Do you like show them like, well, we're not getting this much rent? Does that come in any of your meetings that this is how much we have in arrears without telling people?
So we-
Is that?
So we did a round.
We did a round of meetings, with residents and we did kind of point that out.
Mhm.
I know for me, you know, I'm the friendly face, right? Not property management, but even when residents do come to me and say, example with the Con Ed notice, right? I said, well, you know, did you pay your rent? I'm looking at your ledger, I see X, Y, Z, and just to point them out, like, well, to run a building, it costs money, right? It's just not just, you know, I think, some of our residents just think money grows on trees, and it does not. And I have to explain to them that all these things do have a cost, right? Paying the electric bill or, you know, repairing the lock. You know, that we've had to replace like 3 times. So we have had that conversation. I have noticed with the individual meetings that we've had with residents, we have seen some change where residents are like, okay, I'm gonna, you know, apply for one shot deal. I'm going to make sure I pay my rent. And so they starting, you know, some people have started to like lean into it. But we do have a tenant manual. If you look, a resident manual, all of our residents receive that manual upon entry into a Hope resident. As well as throughout the year, we'll give it out. We're in process of updating and adding some more stuff to it. But it's definitely a resource that we give residents that tells them what they should be doing and what their responsibility is as a tenant. Because again, it's that triangle. Right, the landlord has a responsibility, the tenant has a responsibility, and is really trying to educate residents of what their responsibility is. Like, we're in a contract, right? You need to do X, Y, Z, and we have to do X, Y, Z. And, that's it, that's all I have.
It's a partnership.
It's a partnership.
My last question is that I know you advocate for the tenants and try to help them if they have it when it is. I know, Jessica, you tell us about a program where the tenants, I believe you.
Oh, from full board.
For full board about
State, was it?
state that helps give money back to the tenants when they're paying rent sometime.
Oh.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, some type of initiative, I guess we can send him that
Yeah, we could
information.
connect them. I mean,
Yeah,
Yeah,
That'd be great.
at least you could hear what they have to say.
Yeah.
It's up to you. I don't know. It's-
Yeah, I think from what I researched, they get like 2% back.
Something.
Yeah, that's something from paying their rent on time.
Yeah, I mean,
Something.
whatever resources you have that.
We'll connect you, you guys make your decision, we're not, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're not advocating.
Yeah.
We're not advocating for it.
No, yeah.
But it's an
yeah,
option.
yeah.
It's an option.
I'm gonna go to you just on that
Thank you.
topic. I want, you know, I think, and I could be wrong. There's like this misconception that the board, I think, is only here to hear from residents or, but you guys are our neighbors too. You're within the community. The way you're talking to us about the sanitation, I know, I live in the neighborhood. I know what you're talking about. I feel like this should be a place too, where you could come tell us, because we will be proactive and hear you. You had mentioned an ask for the 239 HSC to get the funding, right? I don't wanna make you really come back, but I'm gonna make, if you could, maybe whenever you want, at one of our meetings, you have to come in person, do a Zoom, just so you're specifically coming, say, you know, we need a letter of support, whatever, and make that pitch. And, I mean, can't tell you how we'll vote, but I think if that's what your ask is, come to us, make it, and we'd be happy to hear you and everything. So, just so you know, like, that's, you know, wanna build these relationships, and I think it'd be great for you to get funding and fix the apartments that need to be fixed. And that's literally like what we've talked about, is improving, you know, these situations. So,
For the voters to know that you're putting together because.
yeah, exactly, right, but at least let's, yeah, exhaust the possibility. So when you said that, I thought that right away. And I think you let us know when you want, and like I said, I really appreciate you being here in person, but I won't make you have to come. You wanna pitch it on Zoom or whatever, we'll be happy to hear that. Okay, so that's it from me now. Jessica, go ahead.
Thank you for, you know, advancing what you all collectively feel is the best way to do the work that you're doing. I think that's remarkable. And it seems like there's so much dedication across the team, given that you've got these incredibly lean property management margins that you're working with across the broad portfolio in a sort of concentrated area. That's community work. It's ridiculous. So, just, is the housing that you provide considered supportive housing?
No.
No, I think you're on you're in a gray area, doing all of the outreach, that's tenant engagement, the types of work that you're doing without technically being considered a form of supportive housing. And, you know, maybe there is some, you know, funding opportunity that can help support that. And I say it because there are some, I know Jonathan Rose and some other developers are aware now of this social aspect of the communities that they help support through, you know, their portfolio is different than yours, but there's a kind of a sort of a recognition that the social component is as critical to success across the board in management and tenant outcomes. So I'll pick the brain and see if there's not a more intentional point of support that I can offer. And I'd also then kind of, the flip side is there's so much to learn from all the good stuff that you guys are doing for other owners to learn whether it's 100% successful, of course not, but I feel like there's always the secret sauce, and you all sort of have it in how you're doing what you're doing, whether it's sustainable or not. I hope that it is. How to share that as a sort of best in practice somehow. I would hope that would be, no puns intended, would be something that you all could could do in representing the work that you do. And lastly, we did invite someone who I met down at the New York Fed, who they typically work with larger entities, but they've got a pocket of support to pilot. It's an app, right? So the state business of residents paying their rent, getting cash back is an app-based function, but there may be workarounds with people who don't have smartphones. I'm not really sure. But it may be something that would fit underneath and he mentioned, the CEO mentioned that there were a couple of pilots that had no cost to owners as well. No cost to tenants and tenant cash back as a way to sort of try to move that needle, I'm like making things go around, so. Whether it's a direct point of connection or whatever, happy to kind of connect the dots, whether it's a conversation or however, you know, you may, and I don't have a stake in stake. Everybody right here,
No,
has a stake in
no.
stake, we all have hope. So, you know, maybe that would be a great way to sort of see if there's any traction, you know, here. As to violations, this internal, it's really hard, it would be really excellent if there was some hard data on how effective the sort of the internal number was over a period of time, and I don't know who's crunching numbers when you're trying to keep things going. But, you know, if there are some numbers on that, I think it would be a great case in point of like, look at how fast we were able to fix things when you use X as opposed to Y, and I think those, you know, I think of like a slide or a picture that can help remind residents, put it on the fridge, right? There's a magnet that says, do this. And it sort of allows them to kind of connect the dot of like, oh, right. And sometimes it works and then it doesn't, but it's a visual, you know, it seems like there's a quick win there that avoids this kind of racking up of violations and problems and missed work, and, you know, so thank you for the work that you're doing.
So thank you, and I guess the theme here is keep hope alive. The other part I would say.
Made it a whole half hour.
Exactly.
You made it a whole half hour.
So going to the beginning there, I think I know there's a recognition of government's part that it's important to sort of look at the needs of the residents. They now have RFPs and RFQs to help select groups to be that social service arm. They just don't fund it.
Right.
We, in our last big project, it was a behemoth of a project. We did 39 buildings, merged it with 506 apartments. But of the 506 apartments, 120 of them are formerly homeless. So we raised our hand and said, we want to take in this population, which not everybody does. And through our portfolio, I've mentioned 239 was 100% formerly homeless. So it's not supportive housing. We're trying to do the best we can to work with folks. The metric that I want to look at, where I haven't found that yet, but that person that was formerly homeless that now owns a home is the metric that I'm looking at. We have done home ownership in this neighborhood and successfully, where we've done a co-op actually too. Madison and Lexington, where in some cases, the folks were able to get a mortgage that was around, what was it, $70,000. We let them know at the last minute that we got a grant for $50,000. We showed up at the closing, said, here's your $50,000 mortgage. They had a closing of $20,000 with a credit card. And got their apartment. So we've done home ownership. And I want to try to figure out innovative ways to get folks from formerly homeless to home ownership. And as it goes to, you know, I guess you seem to always be able to find ways to find money for the tenant. If you can find some for us, that'd be. But I would also say, you know, I think that, part of what we're learning in doing this work, we don't have all of the answers. We're trying to adapt and adjust. I'm not going to say that 100% of the time our folks are content and happy, and I'm never going to pretend that. But I do think there's a concerted effort to try to engage and try to at least address their issues and concerns. If they're calling the 866 number, in the old days, you just found a super who may or may not have remembered to go do the repair. What we were able to do now is capture every call that comes in and we can document it. And I know within 10 minutes, if it's an emergency call, somebody got back to that person. I know that. I didn't know that before. I do know that with our NTEC systems, what the temperature, average temperature is in the building, or if the boiler is running. I don't, so I didn't always know that. I will tell you that we are doing the repairs, whether it's 866 or 311. The problem with the 311 is that legacy of their violation living on if the tenant doesn't let them back in. Again, if they just want the repair done, we did it, there's no violation, case closed. So what we're trying to do is, you know, I'm not sure I'm as convincing as I need to be on the place I go, but the repair is done. And we have a signed work order. In fact, our maintenance staff has a handheld device. You can sign it right then and there. And it uploads right into the tenant file. But if we're measured, which we are, because our attorney is calling me with the housing court judge screaming and yelling, you've got 300 violations. No, I can't, you know. And in some cases, it's in a handful of apartments. It's not throughout the building.
And in those cases, is data, going back to you, is data showing that we did the $300 multiple times. So we have tons of no access. That's the legacy ones is tough, like, you know, you can't get those off.
Yeah. So. I think I got.
Yeah.
Is there some sort of a workaround that can prove to HPD, right, prove to whomever's holding that violation open, if you've got data, right, if you've got a sign off and they're, at some point, there's gotta be trust to close, if there's a sort of a roadblock in the way. I mean, is that a policy issue of?
I mean, we could talk to HPD. Look, I mean, I think we'll all admit that. Well, I think we'll all admit that a lot of times, just because it's the government, what they're doing doesn't always make sense. So, I mean,
It's actually in the law.
it's in the law.
So they
have to change the law.
You literally need to go across.
Change the law.
Show that it's right.
And then they had programs before, I'm not sure if they still exist, that if you didn't get, you could do like you could sign an affidavit saying this is done, and if you didn't get a violation for like a year, then they'll take it over.
Okay.
But that's hard in my living buildings, to be honest.
Well,
In terms of what Jessica brought up in terms of programming for supportive housing, a lot of times supportive housing is a negative connotation. I'm going to tell you that because people think about you're dealing with people who are either struggling with mental health issues or struggling with substance use disorder. So it turns a lot of developers and property managers off. There's a new program that's directed to formerly homeless people who also experience domestic violence called 1515. I'm sure you've heard about it. I've been able to successfully help because I used to work with a DV provider. We've been able to do 2 projects in the last 6 months to include that housing in. That's $25,000 per year per apartment that gets it, that goes right into rent, which I'm sure can be very helpful. That's the type of situation. And then on the provider side, they get money, additional money for programming. So you don't have to necessarily provide the programming. You partner up with another provider. They come in, they do the programming, you provide the housing. So it's definitely something to take a look at, especially with some of the kind of rehabs. I don't know if existing non-rehab or non-new construction can qualify, but that might be worth taking a look into.
Thank you for that. We sort of now, all of our buildings are sort of concentrated in an area. So, and it's my reasons. When somebody says there's a domestic violence in their household, my thinking is if there's a vacant apartment across the street, that may not be the best place for you to go.
Yeah.
So we do swaps. I call other not-for-profits that may not be in the immediate area and say, can you have an apartment for this person? Inevitably, they have somebody. So we've been doing it that way.
Yeah.
So a program like that would be ideal because if we can actually get.
They're coming out of shelter into it. So it typically would be someone coming out of a DV shelter. And part of the safety protocol is you don't want to put someone in the same borough where they experience domestic violence. So they're very careful about where. So the more partners there are across the city, the more impactful it would be to that population.
I just feel like we've got the housing stock in the population. It just needs to move.
Yeah.
So maybe it doesn't necessarily need a new building, but just where's it all? So I mean, I would be willing to have a conversation with whoever to see if we can work that out.
well, I want to thank you all for coming. I want to.
Apologize for being more than 30 minutes.
No, it's appreciated. Follow up with me and Angel, you have my email. If you want to set up something to come in and then, you know, you have to do a presentation, just specifically make that ask. And if you don't follow up, I'll remind you, but I just want to thank you all for coming again, and, you know, we really appreciate it still, all right? And you do not have to stay anymore. Thank you again.
I've been on the Zoom and your full board meeting, 12, 1 o'clock, I'm like, I gotta go to bed.
I know, people forget that, you know, people have jobs and stuff. Thank you again.
Hi, sir. Thank you, everybody. Okay.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, thanks
Thank
again.
you. Can I run a meeting without Angel here? All right, with that said, we're gonna move to B, 205 East 124th Street, HDFC. Anyone here for that? I had invited them.
I think it's with Sarah.
Yeah, I don't know how to.
Edwin, can you hear me?
We hear you.
Edwin's on, okay.
Sarah, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Hi, thank you for having us.
I think we all remember that we had them here before. They were talking about certain issues and challenges they were having with the management and just in general with their property.
The Pullman action.
Yes. And then we spoke about connecting them, I think it was with Jeremiah.
Yeah, with Jeremiah from Palante.
And we did.
Yeah, from what I understand, they've connected with
Yeah, so in that time, and I'm gonna give them the floor, they did send me a video, I believe Edwin, and correct me if I'm wrong, it was of Edwin's mother,
Yes,
she
yeah,
fell-
yes.
Of the building, they had asked for there to be weather mats put in the lobby, and I guess building management didn't do it when they were supposed to, and they had said they would, and as a result of that, this unfortunate accident happened, and I mean, I think, and I'm gonna let them go, I think a lot of what hasn't. I reached out to the property manager myself via email. I included them on the email, Angel on the email, seeing if there was some, you know, willingness to have a meeting, not even at the committee, but like a meeting at the board office, because it's hard to have those meetings at a committee meeting, just to see if there's, I think the word was mediate, right? And there's been no success there. Don't think anybody would be shocked to hear that, but so, no, that's been recent. These are all recent developments, but they asked to come. So, I mean, I guess what I'm gonna ask is, tell us anything new, you know, new things that have happened or whatever. If you could tell us what have you been doing with Jeremiah, and, you know, has there been any traction with that? And, you know, I mean, ultimately, you know, tell us what you think we could be doing to assist, and then, you know, we'll see if that is something that we can do. So, you know, the floor is yours now.
Edwin, do you want to go first?
No, you go, you go.
Okay. We have spoken to Jeremiah. He's been great. We've had 2 Zoom calls with him so far. We've had several emails. We were supposed to have a call on Monday, but he was away and then he kind of got backed up with work, but we will be having another call with him soon. I have a court date on May 28th, so in a couple of months. Something happened a couple weeks ago where I was just leaving my apartment, going to take the dog out for a walk, and JR's brother was running up and down the stairs. He doesn't walk up the stairs, he runs. So anyway, he purposely need I have to be quiet because my son is in another room. He kneed our dog in the nose. I have it on film. I have it on like the video surveillance for the building, but then I was able to start recording like right after that occurred. It's Edwin has had something similar done to him by that individual, and that's the attorney for the building. It's his brother. I filed a police report. It's like a harassment report. Unfortunately, a dog is viewed as property, not a person, so there wasn't really much they could do. But it's again like having that record. What else has occurred since we last spoke? Edwin, what?
Um, pretty much from, as far as I'm concerned, they, they pretty much don't like us to voice our opinions regarding how they mismanaged the building. Basically, well, they don't really, we feel that they don't put the interest of the building at first. It's their special interests. This is run, you would agree, sir, as I'm trying to choose my words carefully.
Don't. There's no
Don't,
need to. I mean, the way I look at it is like it's racketeering. It's,
that's right, yeah,
you know, it is really textbook racketeering what they're
yeah.
doing.
Their
I
profits come first. Their
mean, yeah,
profits come. They want to keep that money train rolling. You know, elections are coming up. All they're gonna do is just put their other buddies on the board. Well, they keep controlling the board. When you have not half the building subletting, this was going to happen. They want this to continue. They have no respect for the community, for community leaders. Have you seen, as you have seen, uh, about three of the five board members haven't been here in a year at least. They're never here. This is not how it should be run. I mean, it's just so frustrating. And I can't believe this is allowed to happen in this country. I mean, like we feel helpless. I'm scared because what the attorney for the building did to me personally has done to Sarah, and it's like they don't want to get rid of him. He's unethical. We provided evidence of the things he's done. It's living like this is very scary. I've lived here since 1979. Before this community was what it is now. And some of these, we have a board member who was here barely 3 months. She got on the board, and I don't know, feels entitled to say how we should live, and she's never here. She doesn't live here. It's very demeaning as a person to live like this. It's like living under a dictatorship. I mean, there's got to be rights that we have, that were the fact that they're not abiding by the HTFC rules of having this as a primary residence should be enough to have them removed. I mean,
the problem is that J.R. Rothstein, he is the quote unquote building's attorney. And by being the building's attorney, he controls the board. Most of the board are his friends anyway. So, I mean, they just have total control. So, from my perspective, it's like on the one hand, you could say, well, I could leave, right? I could just sell my apartment. The problem with that is they've already attached attorney fees on my ledger that they will not remove from the first Pullman action they brought against me, which, let's see, December 15th was when the judge ruled on that. And I was the prevailing party. They attached attorney fees of $13,000 for JR's services, okay? So now they have the new Pullman action, but I already know what they're going to do. He's already told me they're going to assess fees to my apartment. I mean, he bragged to me, and I have it on recording where he brags to me about a former shareholder. Her name is Emily Allen. He brought her to court for the Pullman action, And she walked away with 40 grand on a $300,000 apartment. I mean, this is like, he really gets off on this. It is so sickening that this person, he's supposed to live here. The governing documents, you know, it's very clear, primary residence. It is so crystal
Right.
clear. But he has owned his apartment for about 14 years. My understanding is he's never lived here. He doesn't contribute to the neighborhood in any way. He lives on the Upper West Side, splits his time between the Upper West Side and Miami. This is not the intent and the spirit of the HDFC. It's not why it was set up, why his friends and family were allowed to come in here and, you know, they have majority. It's unfortunate. They don't have majority yet, but the problem is like there's 8 of them, and then there's other people here who, even though they might not be, you know, friends or family of his, they also illegally sublease. So obviously their interests are aligned. Um, I don't know what to do, honestly. It just seems
Yeah.
I feel powerless. You know,
Yeah,
I
and
hope we
they
can get
make,
help. I hope Jeremiah can help us. You know,
Yeah.
it's for me, it's like I've already spent 20,000 in attorney fees. You know, that doesn't seem fair. So anyway, thank you for listening to us. I know you've heard us before. If you guys can, you know, if you think of anything else, connecting us with Jeremiah was
What-
great.
and one other thing, if I may add, is like they've operated with impunity for for so long. And as you see, they seem that they're not accountable to anyone. Right? Right, Sarah?
Yes. Yeah, and to be perfectly frank with you too, I mean, in terms of the board, I don't know if people are also kind of, they could be scared of him, you know? I mean, he weaponizes his law degree. Maybe it's fear on their end too, not speaking up. I mean, I don't know how you can be on the board and know all of these things and be okay with that. It just doesn't seem humane. So
Yeah.
I don't know the story behind that. Like I said, it's like their interests, some of them, the interests are really aligned because some of them they're illegally subleasing themselves. But there's one person on the board, for example, her daughter lives here. That's totally acceptable. But I just wonder, like, where's her head at? Why is she okay with this? You know, why can't she be the person that really speaks up? She's an original shareholder.
Yeah.
So
Well, I want to thank you both for coming. I'm happy that, you know, us connecting with Jeremiah's, you know, been a positive development as I think we thought it would be. I know I've said to the committee, I know I've tried to set up, you know, I mean, we can't be anything beyond a mediator. You know, a lot of this just sounds, as you've said, like legal issues, right? Which, you know, unfortunately, those things usually have to be settled in a court or whatever, you know, so I think our hands are tied and we're limited on a lot of what we can do here, but we will continue, I'll continue to remain in touch with you. And, you know, see however this, you know, the board can, you know, continue to assist or whatever, you know, within our capabilities. So Candy, you have a question or a comment?
Yeah, I have both. What's the name of the management company you're dealing with?
yes, it's Farhat, Farhat. They are located in Chelsea. One of the oh, go ahead, sorry.
The other question that I have is, have you, you know, you have a bylaws. And have you reached out also to HPD on the HCFC side and discussed the issue as well as the Attorney General's office? The
Yes,
Attorney Gen-
yes, we have. HPD doesn't do anything. Our regulatory agreement expired in 2015. What that means is, you know, our governing documents still stand. It is supposed to be a primary residence, but they just don't get involved. But we've contacted them several times, as well as the AG's office. They don't do anything either, unfortunately.
I'll send
No
you,
elections.
what?
No one is doing elections on the end.
Well, yeah, they are, but they
Same
keep
people.
stacking
They second the vote,
the vote.
yeah.
Yeah, because they had eight votes on the board. Out of was it 21 or 22 units?
Yeah, so there's 20 apartments that belong to individual shareholders, and there's one apartment that the building owns. So there's 21 apartments total. And of those 21 apartments, they have 8 confirmed friends and family, and then there are others that are illegally subleasing. So again, their interests are aligned. So
Right.
what he does is he keeps this JR individual, he keeps placing people, he's the board's attorney, right? He keeps placing people on the board who, the interests are aligned, basically.
Right,
They're
right.
either friends of his or the interests are aligned.
Right, he doesn't want to leave it to chance for there to be an election that go his way. So he'll reach out, be like, we have a coming election, I think in May. I'm sure he's reached out to individuals like, I want you on the board this time. They just keep flip-flopping. It's musical chairs. That's what it is. Like I tried running last year. I only got Sarah's vote. But that's how it goes, it's rigged. Unfortunately, that's how it is. It's rigged.
Any other questions, comments? All right, well, I'm sorry we couldn't be more help tonight, but as I said, and I think I've been doing my best, I will continue to remain in contact with you and, I don't know, hopefully the situation gets better. And, we'll continue to, see where this goes and, but I'm sorry. I'm sorry about what I saw on camera, the video.
Yeah, yeah.
I share
Well,
with everyone, it's not mine to share, but I did watch it and so, I'm very
well, if I
sorry.
can, oh, sorry, Adam, sorry if I can add, well, they did eventually they covered the floor only after 5 days, only after I mentioned that I reached out to Diana Ayala's office. And within 30 minutes, they covered it. So, that's how they are.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
Thank you for your
Anyway,
help.
Yeah, thank you, Adam.
thank you. Have a nice evening. All right, we'll be
Okay,
in
you
touch.
too. Thank you so much. Thank you for the time.
Take care.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Anthony, I'm sorry. I'm the one last, I did warn you. Good evening. I'll give you a brief intro to you.
No, I'm coming brand new, I mean, you're familiar with me.
Yeah, of
And you're familiar with our story. So I'm coming in, I don't know what happened, how my name got thrown in the hat, and then,
You reached out, yeah, we
yeah,
talked,
Beverly
yeah.
said, listen, I've never met you.
Yes.
I don't
talk.
Right, we talked on the
Yeah,
phone,
yeah.
right, I was like, I don't know who's this person, but this guy gave you my number. I read him, how you gonna give my number to somebody that you don't tell me about it? But you know what, there are no coincidences, things happen for a reason.
Yeah.
The universe has this funny way of showing itself, so that's the way I believe. So, I didn't know what to expect, what you expect out of me, but you know what, I'm gonna try to keep your attention with me for the next 10-15 minutes and then we're out of here. But, I printed something up. And I'm gonna pass this along so you have some idea of what I'm referring to. So here, this is yours. Yeah. I don't know if I printed enough. It's missing something.
Well, you're doing that. I'm
Yeah.
just gonna give
Please,
more of an
yeah,
intro to
yeah.
you. So, Anthony reached out to me via email, and we spoke, I think it was Friday. And so he's in the 311 Pleasant Avenue. They were, correct me if any of my details are wrong, but like in 2015, you have been out of your apartment since 2015. We spoken, Angel and I had a call with HPD specifically about the ANCP program. And this property was mentioned. Now, I didn't reach out, it was a coincidence then that Anthony reached out to me after that. And HPD acknowledged that 311 Pleasant Avenue was a failure, and what? Well, they did. I mean, I don't know, that's what happened. And speaking to Anthony, I was trying to understand, okay, what's in the past is in the past, and where is it now? And before I'd spoken to Anthony, I was on the impression that things were headed on the right track, with this, property and the conversion. After speaking with Anthony, it seems like that isn't the case, so I invited him in to, like, share his story. So I told him, you know, he gave it to me very succinctly and nicely, so now the
I'm
floor
gonna
is yours.
try to do that again.
Do it again.
I'm gonna try my best.
Do what you did with me on the phone.
I printed everything up, and I just did this bullet points for me, and then I said, you know, what's the worst that can happen? I'll share it with everybody else. So until the timeline, like we entered the program in 1998, Edwin Perez came to us and we initiated the program with Mrs. Phillips, who passed away a couple of years after. We met all the prerequisites and requisites that HPD did provide for us to be a tenants association and a successful one. We kept going and moving forward throughout the years. We've encountered many different coordinators along the way who I felt, or we felt collectively, were setting us up for failure. And we made it quite clear when there was one coordinator who was asking us for an apartment for the relative. I didn't tell you that because it was like, so we said no, you know, because based on principles, we can't give it to one of our family members. How are you gonna come out and give it to you, a total stranger, and you're a coordinator? And after that, she swore that we'll never own that building at all. She swore. She got caught with her hands in a cookie jar and she was ousted. She was allowed to retire. In any event, you know what? Years passed, we kept meeting the requisites. We got to the point where we asked for an inspection of the building because we're paying for the cost, not HPD, to maintain the building. We've been successfully maintaining ourselves, with the exception of paying the gas from the boiler. That's it. Everything we were taking care of. And when the inspection came and said, listen, I remember it was a Polish guy. He said, this is uninhabitable. This building's uninhabitable. We gotta go. Now, prior to that day, we helped house 5 buildings throughout Manhattan in the Bronx to successfully reach their goal of ownership on the promise that we're next. We're next. We're next. One more, Anthony, one more. I said, come on, man, you guys are stepping all over us. Reason being, we're 24 unit apartment building, 6 stories, which at that time we had 10 occupied, 11 occupied. And I say 11 because we had to take the other 2 to court. One was giving us, he was a crack addict, and that you know that I came to the community board. That I got to the point, I said, listen, I'm a firm believer, emails. I love paperwork. I love leaving paper trails. And I sent an email to the community board reaching out for help. And they're like, who the hell is this PIA? And I'm like, I'm here. I need help. We got this junkie. We got, you know, I risked my family's life, my children's life to get rid of this guy. You remember?
Yes,
I And so we got the help. And again, we moved on. Now it got to the point after we've successfully allowed everyone else to reach their goals. We weren't allowed to reach ours. So they said they're gonna move you. So Rick Echevarria, who finally became the director, who came, I don't know. And I kept asking, you know, the letter went to his table that it's uninhabitable. So I asked to speak to him. There's like, I always volunteer to speak. I'm the TA president. I've always been the president. You know me, I'm always proactive. What's the worst that can happen? You tell me no, you know, I'm okay. Rejection's okay with me, you know? So he said, listen, I'll speak with you. And I spoke to him, this, how long have you been in the program? So I explained to him. He says, why haven't you done? And I said, you're the director. You know what? That's gonna change. You're gonna get what you deserve. That's when in 2015, they initiated everything to get us out. Then it lasted. He was fired. He was fired, for whistleblowing. So if you look now, it's on the, well, here's the letter that I was asking our first coordinator. Please help us, let's get through this, please. And it got to Rick. The second is that then they set us up and they said, we're gonna do this, you're gonna be in the till, but we're just gonna change the name to ANCP. I said, which one is it? Till or ANCP? They said, no, till, it's gonna be till, but it's gonna be called Affordable Neighborhood Corporate Program. Okay, so what does that allow? So HPD, in my personal experience, I don't know about yours, my personal experience, they're a bunch of bullies. The coordinators throughout the years try intimidation tactics to undermine the tenants association's unity, its strength. And so they kept pushing and pushing. We said, you know what, we just want to get through. We want to get through, fine. So they started this kickoff, the pre-engagement. Anthony Mira was a fine young man. He was a man of honor and integrity. When he shook his hand, he meant it. And for me, a handshake means a lot. I'm old school. An handshake means you look at me in the eye, you give me an handshake, we're good. I'm gonna hold you to it. So he did what he could, and he said, Anthony, you're good. Trust me, I'm gonna take care of you guys, because okay, fine, great. What happened a short time later, he resigned. I said, okay. Christina Ratcliffe, something like that, was the director. She in turn started this. If you look at the next page, you'll see she's the one who created this program initiative, and then shortly after that, she resigned. Okay? She resigned to go work for the funding group, the bank, that's going to be funding these projects. Coincidence? Yeah. All right. So after that was known, I said, wait a minute, what's going on? Everybody's dropped the ball now, because now what we find out that Hendrickson siphoned money, but prior to getting there, Ricardo Echeverri was gone. He said, Anthony, you gotta fight, you gotta fight. We kept fighting. Banana Kelly came to this pre-K and said, listen, you know what? I got you. I know what you got through. I know what your building's gone through. You helped everybody else. I'm here to help you. His name was Harry DiRenzo, and then we had Dan Stack. They there, and they said at this kickoff meeting, we got you. He came to me to the front and asked me, and he shook my hand. Looked in my eyes and said, I got you, don't worry about it, take care. He lied. So he lied because he never fulfilled his obligation, never called me, never returned any calls. We were now in the back burner. As a result of his, we said, okay, we're gonna go with you. And sure enough, yeah, he moved us out, but possession is 9/10 of the law. So if they couldn't break up the association's strength, because our strength came in unity. So what they did was they divvied us up. The good thing is that our association, they believe in what we're fighting for. They believe in me, and they believe in us. So they're strong with that, but still in all, Banana Kelly, it's my understanding and my experience and my research, what I've gotten throughout the years was Banana Kelly is known through HPD and throughout the system. They low bid each and every time just to acquire the contract, because they got to get bids, right? They low bid, and they deliberately and I'll repeat, deliberately avoid meeting the goals. Because as a result of their mismanagement and deliberation, what they do is they increase the labor costs, they increase the materials, they increase the interest rates, and ultimately increase our rent. Because right now, according to the plan that they have, listen, what worked 25, 30 years, 20 years ago doesn't work now. I get that. Change is inevitable. We gotta meet up. But I have a disabled person who pays $247 a month. We don't blame. Hey, this is blood, sweat, and tears. We all, and he's blind. And he helped when we needed to renovate and repair the apartments. They're proposing for him to pay $1,500, $1,600 a month for his apartment. That's a what, 400, 600% increase? I'm like, wait a minute. And their rationale is, we're gonna provide Section 8. We're gonna provide Section 8. Well, I didn't get into a regular apartment building to get eligible for Section 8. I don't need you in my finances. I don't need anybody. You know what I mean? I wanna pay the set rent, whatever increase it may be, I'll do it. But according to Section 8, you're treating it as it's New York City housing, I'm required to pay 30 to 33% of my income. It's not what I signed up for. This is not what was promised to us. What was promised to us was we own the building. Because you couldn't do a good job at it. You messed up and we took it over, and unbeknownst to you, we successfully made it. And here you are, you dangled the carrot in front of us until we got to the finish line. And when we got to the finish line, oh, you know what, just a little further. And that's what we've been encountering throughout the years. A lot of false promises, mismanagement. If you look here, Banana Kelly, they said they're gonna do a full gut rehab in 12 months. There's no way you can do a full gut rehab in 12 months, but that was their bid. And HPD knows that. And they gave it to them. And it seemed right. Full gut rehab. I highlight. Someone's.
So let me say something. The building, you've been out since 2015, all of you, right?
Yeah,
So for
2016,
20 okay, so 9 years, that building has sat empty.
Empty.
Okay. Is there dialogue right now between you and HPD?
The dialogue
Yeah,
now-
that's what I wanna know.
Okay, so what's going on now? So, HPD, we hired a lawyer. That lawyer didn't really work out very well because she wound up being, a building lawyer, for New York City lawyer. So we hired another one, Serge Joseph, who also represents Palante. Cause we reached out to, Palante reached out to us and we joined their fight. So right now the dialogue is, we asked to have Banana K removed. We don't want it. You know fully well that their mismanagement, that they hired Rockabill to do BK's work because they were falling behind. They couldn't meet the deadlines, they couldn't get the goal, they couldn't get the permits, they couldn't get anything. So they hired Rockabill to do it. So as a result of that and seeing all this, I said, you know what, enough. Strength. We're an association, just stay with me. I had a meeting, they said, Anthony, we trust you. I said, so we're gonna have a meeting. We had a meeting and we said, we don't want Banana Kelly. Oh, but you know what? They came up with these rationales. No, they done this, we don't care. We don't care. That's on you. That has nothing to do with us. We've been out, which happened 2 years ago. We've been out that building 7 years. You've allowed them to be mismanaged. You didn't supervise them, so that has nothing to do with them. We want them out. So finally, they removed them. So now I was in a building on 656 East 12th Street. And during this time, and COVID came up. AFI, Asian,
Asian Americans for Equality.
thank you. Nelson Chan.
Yeah, I know Nelson, good guy.
Hmm.
I mean, in what I know, he's a good guy.
No, he's a good guy.
Yeah.
I won't let you talk bad about him.
Okay.
He's a good guy. He's a really good guy. He shook my hand. He gave me his word. And he stuck to it. He came to me and said, listen, 656 is on the renovation. And you gotta move. And I don't know, they told you, I said, no, it's so windy. And he says, you know what? And I said, well, I can be an a-hole and not go anywhere, because how did this building get renovated before my building? That's not right. It isn't right. And he was like, I know, I heard, blah, blah, blah. And I looked at him. He says, I'll do what I can. I said, okay. He gave me his hand. And he did right by me. He did right by me. And till this day, we're in contact. And the reason being, because I said, you know what? I want you to do our building. We want to make it happen. It's showing up. We had that meeting with HPD, and now we have AFI as our developer. And so we see him, and he's in contact with me. As a matter of fact, I don't know where I put my phone on. Oh, it's over there. We're supposed to be meeting to do a walkthrough of the building. But now it's my understanding, so HPD wants us to get loans. So the developers are coming, they're gonna get loans to renovate the building, to all that, right? Here's the problem, that's not what was promised to us 20 years ago. We had 100 million for renovation. Listen, it's right here, and I put it in there.
That's true.
Hendrickson. She's typing allocated. We'll use the word allocated. So the money, and it's unfortunate that no one knows or no one would answer, where is that money at now? It was specifically for our renovation. Because Rick Echavarria said that we got money for you guys, you're on it. Just when we got there, they removed this from us. They removed it from the bottom line. And it's a singular. You have, I wrote the addresses down. The addresses in East Harlem that we helped develop on 100th Street, 342, I think it is, East 100. We helped develop that one. We helped 248 East 3rd Street, another one on 149. Listen, the list goes on. The list goes on. And now they want us to take a loan.
How much?
We don't know yet.
They haven't even given you projection of
Nothing,
cost.
no projection, nothing. And this is what, okay, so if you look at this sheet, if you have this sheet, you're gonna look at the amount of coordinators we've had throughout the years. So every time the baton was passed, someone lost our paperwork. I'm sorry, you gotta go to the back. I'm sorry, you know what? Can you let that building in, because you're not ready, we didn't do it, and what are we gonna do? Okay, that if you promise, we'll do it, and no. All the coordinators, there might be one or two missing, but my memory served correctly. Okay, so the last coordinator, San Carlos. And under the coordinators, we have a list of all the directors and deputy directors I have written on there too. All right, who supervise these coordinators. Now, I'm no Columbo. For those of you who know what Columbo is.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
But let me ask you this, Hassan Carlos joined the ranks in 2023. She came to me, she said, I'm your new coordinator. I said, okay, fine, great. She came to me, says, listen, you know what? You've been out of the building, but you're responsible for cleaning the front of the building because we're getting too many summonses. What are you talking about? We're getting too many summonses. I said, we're not gonna clean the building. We relinquish the keys to the building to you and the developer, HPD and the developer. Then you hold the developer accountable, not us. We're not paying. No, you gotta pay. We're not paying. No, I send it in an email. We're not doing it. We're not doing it. I said, oh, okay, fine. Finally, we had a meeting. They squashed it. That same person was at our business meeting with Nelson Chan, when we were at the table discussing, and I said, listen, I made it clear to everybody in this room, I said, listen, we have legal representation, please do not speak to any of our tenants unless you let us know first, so that they're prepared and we'll know what was going on, not to control, but to protect. Everybody was in agreement. Lasana Carlos was there, she's new, she's a relatively new person, and I said, listen, I'm here to help you. I'm gonna help you. So she said, okay, Mr. Villandez. What happened was, long story short, we had Floresita Espin, beautiful lady, who was, she was the rock in our building. She had to relocate, she was on 126th Street. Bottom line, Hasana Carlos went and took her and relocated her to another building in Grand Concourse. We didn't know about it. We didn't know about it. And then all of a sudden, they come to us and say, listen, Hasana Carlos, you gotta pay Grand Concourse. It's 5 months rent. I said, 5 months for what? For who? What? Oh, Floresita, what are you talking about? It was 3 months rent, I'm sorry. And I said, what? When did she? What? Oh no, we had to move because you know what? The ceiling collapsed and that apartment, we had to get her out. And oh, we're gonna have to have a meeting on this. So we had a meeting. The lawyers there, HPD coordinator, Warner, the legal guy. And I said, listen, you should have told us, oh, it was under emergency situation that we had to. And I said, okay, so explain this to me. If it's an emergency, then why did you have time to show her an apartment on 3 different occasions? You didn't think on one of those occasions you could have reached out to us and asked us? Instead, you're sending me that we have to sign a relocation agreement? On what terms? What term is that agreement? That's what we had to do. And guess what? We were gonna sign it and the lady died. We've had 3 tenants believe in our vision. The vision that HPD said 20-something years ago when we wrote, it's yours. It's yours. All you gotta do is do A, B, C, and D. It's yours. You sure? Yes. They believed in them. They believed in us. They believed in me. Cause listen, I have no qualms. I'm 64 years old. Ain't nobody gonna do to me what I haven't done to myself already. So I ain't scared. Let's go. You know? So they believed in the mission, they believed in the vision, and now 3 people have passed waiting for this to come to fruition. Based on lies. Here we are, and I'm like, why? So Asana Carlos did that undermining, and where's that coming from? Guess what? I'll tell you. I'm glad you asked. Because I pointed these things, it was for me, not for you. I asked myself, the common denominator. Hanks, Michelle Bush Hanks, is very aware of the legal system and how things run. Why would you suggest to your coordinator that we have to pay? Why would you suggest to your coordinator, take Floresita out to somewhere else and not sign a lease? Don't tell them they got legal representation. So, bottom line, this is my personal, I don't, not anyone in the building, me. We have people elected into these positions to ensure the success of the TIL program. However, these same individuals are geared to dismantle the program at the same time. And whether they're doing it deliberately or inadvertently, they're inexperienced. If it's not inexperienced, I don't know what it is. It's conspiracy then. But the reality is the lack of leadership that allows a developer that is known for years to continue operating under the guise that they're going out for the community when they're definitely, we really know they're not. We have all these delays, the funding that were allocated to this, to the success of this program, to now all of a sudden vanish, and no one's looking for it. We don't have, I don't have the arms, the strength, or the strong arm to say, hey, where's the one? Show it up. No. Collectively, we can. So this is our dilemma. So right now, we're waiting for AFI. But from my understanding, Palante said they had an open, because I mean, talking with Palante, there's still people there, no.
Yeah, well, there could be, but
So-
there could be, anything could be there.
Yeah, but so I spoke to them about, but this and this, now saying that, you know what? We won't have, they're not going for the loans anymore. The HPD is supposed to be paying it, that's rumor, I don't know. So if that's the case.
Well, I guess that's my question, because when I spoke to you, and I'd asked you, what communication have you had with HPD? You told me none. Okay, so I just wanna. The fact that you haven't been able to be in your building for what, let's call it 10 years, 9, 10, all this, you know, that alone is enough. You know, everything you've said, I'm sure you could go.
I can go on with
Yeah,
stories.
but the
It's
fact
not
of the matter
this.
is, it's been, let's call it a decade, like you said, and you told me this, 3 people have passed away since they've been displaced and they're never gonna have that's done for them, they never got it. And you're saying that after 10 years, not being in your home, you're telling me right now that HPD, there's no real dialogue going on.
Nothing.
So then, and correct me if I'm wrong, because when people come here, I wanna hear what they have to say, but I also wanna know what we can do. You had said to me, and maybe I'm sure there's more than that, but that you would wanna get a meeting with HPD, is that correct or not? Do you don't even care?
At this point, you know what, at this point, I don't need to request that because, you know what.
But have you been talking?
We
to them?
talk with our lawyers, we talk with AFI, I'm in contact with AFI.
So they're talking
Yeah,
HPD.
so yeah, they're talking to HPD right now,
So what do you, okay, then let me ask it differently. What, is there anything you think we could do? Anybody?
if there's anything that you can do, listen, the ANCP program is a program that is set to fail the existing tenants who enroll in it. Because again, they're asking the building to obtain a loan under their association name and tax ID. And then they're responsible for paying the mortgage of that building. Here's the problem. Here's a huge problem. That's one problem. But you're sitting in the room with the developer, you're just having these behind the door conversations about these. About us, without inviting us. So you're reaching collectively deals, negotiating, doing whatever the hell, whatever conversation is coming up, and you're not inviting us. Meanwhile, what you spew out is what we're supposed to accept. When we're not invited, we should know this is what was promised to us. There's no reason why we should be spending.
Well, you wanna
so
be at the
much money.
table, I mean, which you should be.
Exactly.
Which you should be.
They have
We
an
should
ownership
be.
interest. You have ownership interest.
So, but I'm saying, so what I guess I'm going again to
So what
this.
I'm trying to do
You're
is,
still not, that's still not happening.
nothing's
Right.
happening, and if I can, if our building, and I hope it's not, if our building is bit late because we've been removed because possession is 9/10 of the law, at least we get to help other tenants, buildings, avoid this. And if we can get the community to see this and help the tenants avoid this.
Yeah.
Because HPD speaks with a forked tongue.
Mm.
It's unfortunate but true. They elected individuals to make this program work. Unfortunately, they're the same individuals, not all of them, who are either envious, they're jealous, or you know what? You couldn't get my family in there. And guess what? Oh, I lost your paperwork. That's why I send everything certified mail with it. Because I got tired of hearing, oh, it didn't come in the mail. What? Certified mail now. I don't care. I'm sending it. I'll pay for it. Certified mail. So this can be avoided. Another building can avoid this. People dying, waiting for this dream to come true. It's an illusion. You wanna laugh? So the lady who died, Floricida, just her daughter who was helping her while she was going in and out, because she was in the hospital, she had cancer. She stayed with her. She died. Her name was Rosie. Anthony, I don't, you know, what am I gonna do? I said, you know what, HPD at the meeting when we bought this thing, don't accept her rent. You like that one? Don't accept her rent. What do you mean, why? That's her daughter. I've known her when she was a little kid. Don't accept her rent because she has to fill out succession right. What are you talking about? She's been there. Couldn't accept it. Again, bullying tactic. What am I gonna do? I gotta like, oh man, you know what? I spoke to the other officers, Anthony. Don't push it. We come this close to the line. Don't. Okay. Rosie, what do you mean? I can't accept it. You know what? So then now, here's a slap across the face. Add insult to injury. Hasana Carlos, again, being new, she reached out to me. Mr. Galindez, you gotta get Rosie Aspen to fill out the succession right application. What? No. Hasana, you're gonna do it. Because you went behind our back and took her and removed her from the premises originally without our consent, knowing when you sit in front of the lawyers, you cannot talk or deal with our tenants without our consent. You did this behind us, doing an undermined action. So as a result of that, it's a result of your action, not ours. You get the application. And then we had a legal meeting. And at that legal meeting, I said, you're responsible, HPD and Hasana Carlos is responsible for getting that application. You go tell her that she needs to fill an application for her mother's apartment she was living in. So at that moment, at the same breath, and at this time, I want Hasana removed from being our coordinator and never contacting us again. And we got her removed. And that's where it's been.
Well, and what, well, I mean, I'm gonna go back to,
So where we at now? I'm here, Beverly invited me, she wanted me to give you guys a spiel of what's going on.
right,
So right now, that's what's going on, and if I
but
can
so
touch that building,
nothing's really going on.
nothing, we're stagnant. Right now, I can read you the text
No.
from Nelson, and he said, you know, we're gonna be meeting as soon as it gets warmer. Okay,
Yeah, well, okay, yeah,
yeah, okay.
it
I'm
is,
gonna get sick before, you know, I die, I don't know, but listen, Nelson's a good guy, he's kept his word with me. Do you understand? And he said, I was under the impression that we have,
when's this walkthrough supposed, you said
I
there's,
don't know, when it gets warm, right now.
that's the walkthrough when it gets warm?
We have 17 empty apartments.
Well, no, yeah, well, they're all in.
And so we're supposed to be going back, it's a 24 apartment building, elevator building, across the street from Costco.
Mhm.
Prime location,
Yeah.
prime location. Nobody really wants us. That's the
I
reality.
mean, that sounds about right.
Yeah, nobody, but we've run it successfully all these years. So now, here we are.
But here's my question, because the history is the history. We could sit here and we could run in a circle on this, and you've lived it, And so we wouldn't be even doing you, we couldn't do your service by sitting here and listening to it for 3 hours. What I'm saying now is, what can we, I've talked to HPD about this. What I'm saying is, I don't know what to say to you.
I don't know. I'm
Because
surprised-
I could be wrong, I wasn't presented this version by them.
Of course not.
Okay, fine, but I don't wanna be, it can't be where, I go here and I go there,
But
and I go here.
what can the community board, what can the?
I can
community
get,
board
we can have a,
Do,
well,
okay, besides facilitating a meeting, what power does it, because I
we're
can't-
advisory,
Right.
right,
So what she knows how many times I've been down this road with Matthew Washington and George Sarkanian and Miss Diana Ayala, who Miss Diana Ayala said, you know what? I tell you what, I got an organization that's gonna help you. I said, really? You know what she sent me to? Don't laugh. Picture the homeless. Told you don't laugh, man. All right, picture the homeless. They called me and they came to the building like a march, and I kept telling them, why would you? That's a violation that I came to you requesting help and you forward my information to them. That's a violation. I can sue you, but I didn't go that route. And I had to deal with picture homeless and I had to submit a cease and desist against them. So this is not new, and that's why I'm here going, what can you do for me?
well, I don't know.
You understand?
I
So
don't-
I'm here because if I can avoid it for you, I'm gonna do it. Because you know what? Everybody in my building knows how I am. You know how I am.
Well,
I
Beverly,
don't
though, correct me
operate
if I'm wrong,
selfishly.
are you being forced into this program?
They tell us that there's no other thing for us to go
Yeah.
into. You either
I
go
heard,
to the
correct me
ANC
if I'm wrong, you can
ANCP
stay
or-
as a rental if
or
a certain
rent- or
number of the
rental.
board, you could.
or
So,
as a
so I
rental
guess my
by
question,
somebody else, but somebody else's.
right, but what I'm hearing is that the terms to become a homeowner now are a problem, but you don't wanna stay renters. So, because here's my problem, and I'm not saying that there's anything, that you guys are wrong or anything. I'm not really hearing even what a clear, if you ask me right now to go to HPD and say, well, this is what they want. I don't know if I would know the answer to that right
You
now.
want what was promised to us, which is, listen,
So-
we don't expect to pay for the apartment $250, because you know what? That's 20 years ago. 2,500, I said, okay, I can do that.
So here, let me make it simpler. What terms, you mentioned the loans, what terms have fundamentally changed that now make this a non-starter? The till, what you were promised, what, it's the mortgage, is that it? That's it, that's
The
the part.
mortgage.
Okay.
Here, I draw it up, right? They relocated 2 of our tenants to Prospect Avenue in the Bronx, which is a BK owned building. They said, you know what? Their rent is 1,800. All right? I said, but this guy pays $312 a month. How are we gonna charge him? We're gonna subsidize. Where's the subsidy coming from? Who's gonna pay for it in the long run? All right? They don't answer that. Don't worry about it. We're gonna pay for it. New York City pays it. I'll show you back that they pay it every month. They offset the balance. I'm gonna read to you. Relocation payments of $172,000. I calculated it today. With an anticipation with another 36 months on both tenants. Total for a grant of $259,000 and 102. 260 grand could have been allocated.
Rehabilitation.
Are they using city theft vouchers, like?
No, it's, no, from what we understand, it's part of the loan. They get that in the loan money.
Okay,
That's where it is. So that's part of the loan. So whatever money that's over what the original rent is tacked onto the loan that they have to take out. And that's how they get paid.
And that falls on us.
And then
that's
we
what
have, and we
okay.
have
So
to
it's
pay
like,
that
yeah,
back.
That's part of the mortgage.
And we have to pay that back.
How were you allowing?
What
that
about
to
the
happen?
money to rehab everything?
The rehab,
There's no money.
what we was told is that you have 3 sources for rehabilitation. HPD grant money, grant money and a loan.
And alone.
And alone. Now, HPD has been having meetings with the city council that they are increasing their share. So, because people have been fighting back about the loans. So we don't know exactly how much that is. Last meeting that I've seen in earlier this year, I think with, Ms. Darger and the city council, that they had spent at least $500 something thousand per unit. But I don't know what building it was for, but it was something, if you go on, the city council's website.
And what's, like on that, 500 something thousand a unit, or you don't know, what portion of that would be grant money versus a loan
No, that's what HPD
is willing to pay?
is willing to pay, and that was our argument from day one.
But they, per unit, 500 something thousand?
Yeah. Yeah, per
Phone, your
unit.
phone, your phone.
At the beginning.
Then why would there even need to be a loan? I mean, that sounds like
But
plenty of
no, that's why they increasing, so they won't have to do the loan.
do the loan.
Right,
Okay.
and that was one of the things that was put in the report that the controller had. You know, it was something that they supposed to be putting
There was,
more
yeah,
money.
there was a report that the
Right.
controller created, that
Right.
they found that the existence of a HPD2 program. How many buildings have been renovated under the chill
Under the
program? Until they,
ANCP,
yeah, and they only have 12.
13, since 2014 to present, they only did 13 buildings.
How many were in the pipeline?
Like 70 or
Yeah,
something.
78, I think,
Yeah.
something like that.
So this is, and because we have this information, because we study, because we research, that's why we've been pushing back. The other thing that, Anthony was speaking about with regarding the tenants and the succession plan. Under the original till, we had the right to rent, that was part of our management.
Well, I was gonna ask you, these 17 empty units, right, what was if everything went the way it was supposed to, what was supposed to happen with those 17
The
units?
TA,
We sold.
So,
so by the TA,
by TA,
the TA had.
oh, then you would get that money
Right.
in the,
That would go
Exactly.
go into the
the,
kitty,
Go to the key
man.
of the building,
okay.
that's what
That's the
happened.
old program.
That's the original program. We had the right.
Well,
as
but, okay,
management-
that's what would happen now?
Now, with the new AC, you got it right now. So
ANCP
the developer is going to be the one responsible.
for selling those.
For
apartments.
Selling those units.
so they get the developer fee plus they get a cut from
Yes,
every unit they sell.
So
yes,
you're getting less money.
yes, yes, yes.
In some ways, it's almost better if you guys became a developer.
But please find out what happened.
Oh, if you're gonna go, yeah, all right, thank you, yeah.
What happened to your money? That's
Yeah, you have, yeah. that's
Right.
another-
We, as a management company,
Don't sweat it.
we were supposed to be the ones that.
No, I'm
rent
not,
the building.
my thing is,
And
cause, and like. So we had, well, I thought, for your property,
Mhm.
a meeting scheduled, and you asked me what the board can do, well. A board is, and correct me anyway if I'm wrong, right, we're advisory, but we can make noise, I don't think we always do it the best way we can. I think our voice could probably be much louder and more impactful than we allow it to be. My thing is, you know, when I talk to HPD separately and I talk to you separately, I'm a ping pong ball. It's not, you know, you're right. So my idea of getting the board or, you know, and it wasn't the whole committee, it was even just to get me and Angel at the table. And I said, tell HPD, what you say now in the presence of the community board, we will hold you to that. And then we can go to our electeds and this and that. And I understand, but good luck them talking to a community board now that says, no, we were there. This is what was told to these people.
Right.
You know, you're not gonna just tell us now, oh, you know, like that, it doesn't play that way.
Right.
So that's why I wanted to set that meeting up, right? And I don't know, they told me, this is what happened. And cause I'm gonna wrap this up and everyone wants to go home and wrap it up.
Question actually, Adam.
Well, okay, I'll get to it. I'm just kind of just circling to where we were at. So we had a meeting. Me and Angel met with HPD. The idea was to have a meeting with the 98th Street and the 127th Street, right? Then somehow that became maybe two separate meetings. They said, oh, we're talking to the 127th Street. Then there was a meeting. The board wasn't really, I thought, given the respect of being told when the meeting was, whatever, but I said, it's not about us. We were told the date of the meeting. I said, we will be there. Me and Angel were like, we'll be there. Meeting gets canceled. They tell me that the tenants canceled the meeting. I asked them why. Oh, they didn't tell us why. I said, okay, is there a new meeting date? No, we'll let you know when there's a new meeting date. So now it leaves me in a position where it's like, I don't know why the tenants cancel. I don't know if they did cancel it. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing, because my goal is to get us all into a room or on Zoom or whatever, at least one time. So I can, to start, so I can get, but right now I'm hearing from too many different angles. Not that I don't believe what you're saying. It's just, then I go talk to them. I'll say, I heard this, then they'll go, oh, yeah. And it just keeps going back and forth. So my goal to start is to, that's why I asked you, can we all get into a meeting together?
Sure.
Say what you want, and I'm there to just mediate and hold accountable. Now, if they promise you something there, or they say this, or they say that, then it seems like, well, you said that. That's on the record. I was present. The board had a representation there. I'm new to this, whatever. So I want to start, like you talked about, right? Having receipts, having emails, having this. I want the board to be involved and be able to say, well, we have receipts. This is what these people were told. I mean, I walked, not like it's a long walk, it's about me and Angel walked here probably, because I wasn't sure exactly what was going on there.
Right.
And nothing is, there's no permits, there's no nothing. Windows are boarded up, nothing there. And I know that building, and I'm like, that's how this has always been. So, at the very least, it's a joke in a community where affordable housing is the biggest crisis, that a building is sat there with 24 apartments empty for 10 years.
Right.
Okay,
And also a community that has one of the lowest homeownerships.
Right.
In the city,
Yeah.
and you have the one option to create homeownership.
and the city is penalizing people who own vacant land.
Yeah.
Because they're withholding housing,
Right.
and they're raising their taxes.
Right.
You'll pay more taxes on a vacant land now than you'll pay on a building, but then at the same time, they own property
But-
that is
yeah.
totally vacant and.
And they won't let us
Taxes,
rent.
by the way.
They're paying the taxes now.
No, they are.
Yeah.
paying-
Yeah.
yeah. So at the very least, because
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, I'm
Well, I
like,
mean, the fact that you were supposed to, where you were relocated to Lower East Side, right?
Right, so I'm born and raised on Lower East Side, all right, so they did me a favor. My grandparents owned the restaurant on Lower East Side for 25 years, so I'm a stickler, everybody knows me. So they got me there, I said, listen, you can keep me here, listen, you can put a stipulation. If you don't
You
do,
told
if
me
you don't do
this.
a development in 2 years, give the option for the tenant, either stay where they're at and they sell their shares, you know what, or get the development done.
But my point is, they relocated you to Lower East Side. They know that you're you're responsible, and
They
then
know.
they know,
They know.
they know, but then they're asking you why they're getting summons and not cleaning
Right.
their. So this is the thing. We can stay here all night, and I'm gonna let Jessica ask her question, and then I'm gonna continue to push to have a meeting.
Okay.
Okay, I don't know I wanna get everybody at the table. I wanna see if, say your piece, but tell them that, this is what was promised, this is how it's changed, and then we can be there and we
Okay.
can hear it all together. So that's what I'd like to try to do.
All right,
All right, we okay? I just wanna, I can't make promises.
No,
It's not- This is
I get that.
volunteer work, but I'm willing to put the time in and try to at least
Okay.
get everybody at the table
Yeah.
and see if there can be a positive forward progress where promises are honored, people, there's gotta be compromise. I know you said, and you sound like you're willing to compromise. You're like, I know things will change in 20 years, whatever.
Yes.
But at least the spirit and the original promise, and don't set people up to fail. I couldn't agree with you more. If the whole idea of this is to create home ownership for people, then create it so they can be successful at it. Don't make it where, oh, well, 3 years from now, they gotta take the building back
They're
and
gonna
like, oh,
foreclose because
yeah,
of a
exactly.
ridiculous
Listen, we were
rent.
the leading.
And maybe
till
that's what the
building.
intention is all along.
We were leading till building. They wanted us to train the other buildings who were having trouble with their finances. We had over $100,000 in the bank. We still have money in the bank, in which they tried to take it away.
You told me about that.
And I said, I'm not giving you my opinion, no.
Anthony, you know what really sucks and
Yeah, Jessica,
I'll
yeah.
Go
really
ahead. I'm
realize-
sorry, Jessica.
they could have gotten you these loans at 1.5%, 2% 8 years ago, and now you're looking at 8%.
Easy.
Jessica?
Thank you for coming to the table and engaging us in this conversation. I just want to state for the record, I don't know as a member of the committee if I'm completely comfortable with how involved you are in doing this work, Adam, only because
Then you can do it.
I.
Or you wanna come? No, I'm not.
Adam,
Okay.
just if I can, only because, there's no record of it. That's.
There's no
also,
record of what?
Of, you know, and this is, I think. The incredible process that you've been through with your neighbors. To be here, this is only the tip of the iceberg, and I recognize that. My question is, and please don't, anybody take my comments the wrong way, because I'm here as committed to this work as everyone else is. What is the, just if, so that I can understand, what is the goal today?
The goal after.
Not right now today, but as of today, what is the goal? To get back into the apartment and own it? Is that the goal
That is the end goal
for you and everyone
for
else?
everyone else.
Who remains a part of the tenants association and is still.
We're gonna get back. We're gonna
That's
get
the
back.
goal.
We're gonna own it. However, the terms of ownership has been changed.
By an
And
incredible
so-
process.
Yes, and so what we want, and hopefully the goal, everyone's goal is to sit at the table and let's hatch things out, negotiate what are the facts. Because what we've been given throughout the 20 years that we've been in existence is nothing but mixed messages.
So just a follow-up question, I am not a lawyer. But the amount of legality that you're dealing with in this process through and through is a mountain this high.
Yes,
Right.
we've already filed. We already filed a suit in which they now put a stay on. And so that's why we have the negotiation dangling with them. Just like the same lawsuit and similar to Balante gave them. So right now, HPD is running around uncertain in which direction they need to go.
So the suit was against HPD or?
HPD.
Okay.
So just
From another
back to
building
the,
in Brooklyn, so.
if I could, just the question of what is the goal, today, and I think, again, this is why you are coming to the table with HPD, having meetings to try to move things forward. I'm just trying to understand.
I don't know. I really don't feel comfortable saying anything to you right now. Because you just told me you don't feel comfortable with that there's no records or whatever. I've had one meeting with HPD, with Angel. Everything's been documented via email. All we've been trying to do was get the parties together at a table. They ended up going off and talking on their own about it. I'm not even sure. I mean, and be honest with you, if the efforts are gonna get questioned or be made to feel uncomfortable, this is why I think things don't get done. It now makes me not really comfortable to be involved, period. If I'm being honest. So, I mean, no, let me just, so, like, my intentions are to help, I
Mhm.
want to help. Frankly, I didn't see much of any help coming from this committee or this board or whatever. And I'm sorry, and I'd love to help and all that, but if I'm gonna be questioned about, my role in this, then, I'll step back and allow it to be handled by someone else.
If I may
So-
interject. So realistically speaking, if you wanna go get technical. That lady there, she'll tell you, there's a history with community board. So it's documented throughout the years. It's documented through emails, our situation is documented. So again, the goal is to have some sort of dialogue where all parties are sitting at a table, including the community board who represents this community. Because unfortunately, in the previous boards, and I don't mean any disrespect to anyone here, but the previous board failed this community.
And just to
failed us.
clarify, the all parties means the tenants association, the community board and HPD.
Yes, ma'am.
Only your building's tenant association?
No, we can
or
have
others?
all the others,
Okay, okay,
absolutely.
Great.
That's what it was always gonna be.
Right.
And you know that,
Yeah.
that's the emails that have been going back and
Yeah.
forth.
See,
There was
because-
no close, the idea was HPD made a presentation to explain what was going on. That was it,
Right,
which I'm allowed to listen to.
right,
And then it was, and here's the thing, I don't even want to tell you guys. The same thing, you were here when 124th Street people came.
yeah,
I don't wanna get involved in people's business.
Right.
I don't think it's the board, I don't wanna put the board, I don't represent the board or say, just get you guys together. And get your goal done. That's
right.
it.
So
That's it. And that's it.
The
That was
most
the whole
important
sentence.
thing is, again, HPDs, my experience with them is they divide and conquer. And that's
And
what
that's
they've
why
done
I've been,
throughout.
that's
That's
why I
say
said to
we
bring everyone
collectively
together.
get together, all the associations, now let's talk, not banging each other, blaming each other, not into that. Let's have a mature conversation with open dialogue and say, what is the goal? Where are we all at?
I agree with you.
All, not just 311, not this one, all. Now kick the same spiel to everyone and not a different spiel individually.
Well, if you want that, we
Yes,
can work on
That's
that,
what we
John.
want.
But
Okay.
then before this meeting started, we were talking about different situations and being mediators and basically representing because as you so aptly said earlier to me, everybody that lives in this community are our neighbors and we should and people we should advocate for, we should. So if you want to get people to the table, you have my support.
Thank you.
Mine's too.
I have a follow-up question.
Go ahead.
Not to be, anybody's advocate. It's my understanding that anybody who receives any point of support, assistance or otherwise from the city is held to conflict of interest and DOI standards.
No,
Yes.
you can't, are you a lawyer? You just questioned. So,
No, I said.
but
I
I'm
was-
just saying,
But my understanding is if you receive public assistance, if you
Right.
receive assistance from the
Right.
city, you are held to those two,
you're not excluded from purchasing an HDFC. You are not excluded there, you,
no, but my question is, and this is not a question for you necessarily, it's just a general question about all those involved, including contractors who are,
Right.
embedded in this process as screwed up as it is. Those entities are also beholden to those sets of rules that govern.
We're beholden to them as community board members.
We are, yes,
Yeah,
but
the-
everybody who is potentially
Yes,
involved
if
in the
you-
TIL program is,
If you're a city
And-
contractor or you have any business before the city, you are typically bound by the conflict of interest rules. And you are subject to investigation by DOI
Mhm.
if that comes up. So, so yes, every party at the table on this transaction.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
everyone in the tennis, everyone involved.
is part of
is-
that. Yes, they are part of that.
You cannot, they have restrictions, it's like for my building, there's 7 of us, and there's only, you know what? We have one correction officer.
Yeah, but I think she's more trying to figure out like who has jurisdiction. So like
Yeah.
if someone wants to wanted to investigate, where do we go to get?
Yeah,
this?
Who's
So-
gonna play by what rules, is
Yeah.
all I'm asking, not because
Yeah.
I think you're,
Yeah, no, no, no.
dishonest, but
Yeah.
just because there's been so much of that crap going on.
Oh, that's,
In the history of your non-delivery of promises, right? Not your, but.
Yeah, no,
non-delivery
I
of
get it.
Promises to.
No, I get
you.
it.
that, you know, where do you start to say,
Yeah.
this was wrong, this was
And
wrong? this was
DOI
wrong,
has
this was
investigated
wrong,
other
we need
tilts.
What we've asked for.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there have been like countless, and that's part of the reason why the tilt program unfortunately has gone away. Is because there have been investigations of other other tilt properties where there was blatant.
Even
Right.
2014, I just looked, I think this housing offsite and keeping that on a rent roll and how those funds go, how they're trackable, how they're not, you know,
I mean,
it's a mess.
you can,
So that's
you
why I
can
asked what the
request
goal
all
is
that, I mean, look at 321, 323, 325 Pleasant Avenue. They were on probation, and we had to house them while we were maintain over 90,000 in the bank. We met every criteria, everything, and they said, no, but Anthony, you know what, you gotta do it for them, because you know, they just had a fire. Okay, and they were on probation. Where was DOI? Where's investigation? No one, there was no honorary system there. So again, I get what you're saying,
Yeah.
but you can't force anyone to do
Well,
what they're supposed to.
the fact of the matter is, and I think, I'm gonna sum it up and then we'll just adjourn. The goal is, I think, as it always has been, home ownership under terms that you were originally promised. And like you said, you're willing to accept that things have changed over 20, 30 years. And there's no magic wand, there's no solution.
Right.
I just thought getting everybody or as many people as possible into a room together with HPD, with board representation there, just as a mediator, to be there to have the conversation on record, so that HPD cannot come to the board and
Right.
say, oh, this was said or that was said, so we can hold them accountable, because I believe that's what we're here for, to be an
I think
advocate.
that's.
Then if that's something that everybody's comfortable with,
Mhm.
you know, we work to, and everyone from the board is willing to attend all of these things. I'd actually love it if somebody would take the ball and run on these things. I just do it because I took this responsibility, and I'm trying my best to, when people come that need help, that are my neighbors or whoever in a community that I've been born in and live in and raised in, that I do my best to help.
No, and
That's it.
we appreciate.
No,
all
you don't
that
need to
you've done.
appreciate anything. I haven't helped you. We haven't helped you yet.
Just
We haven't helped you
listening,
yet.
just listening.
No, that's not enough. Because that's been the problem here. And this guy is a good friend of mine and me. We sat at the table up and we've heard things. And it's not that we don't care, whatever, but we're not here to just listen. We are here
Okay.
to say, what do you need? How can we advocate? You asked, what can we do? How can we support?
Yeah.
But we can connect you with support. We can be there. We can make noise. That's one of the things we can do. We can make noise, and there's 50 of us, and we have the ear, and we don't always do it, but we can do it. And so I just want to show everybody that this community board is here for them. And you don't ever have to thank us, nothing. I just hope that one day in the end, it happens, and I don't care who, why, what, but maybe something we did help to move in the right direction, and that is it.
That's all.
All right, so I promise I will be in touch with
We'll be in
you
touch.
and we'll figure something out,
Yeah.
all right? But I really appreciate you
I
coming
appreciate
here. I
you
think we
taking
all
the
do.
time. I'm sorry I took so long, it just.
No problem.
Anthony,
Just-
you had 20 years of history, bro. I'm
Like I
surprised,
said, I
I'm
figured-
surprised you're still not going.
Yeah,
Listen.
Don't encourage them.
No.
Thank you.
The reality is, thank you all.
thank you.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it.
And we'll all be in touch. Thank you, all right?
Anthony.
With that said, I mean, we don't have all,
Any old business?
no, we kind of,
Yeah.
it all wrapped in.
Yeah.
And, new business, no, again, reminder, the walkthrough, 1 PM Thursday, we're meeting at White Castle,
That's dangerous.
yeah, I'm not telling you to have lunch there, we just happen to be meeting at lunch, so.
Don't tempt me
anyway.
with a good time.
All right, meeting's adjourned, thank you.
Yes.
Can you guys just stick around for a second? Bye.
And Angel's gotta take a roll, I think.
I'll reach out to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You going down?